Welcome back, fellow travelers. What then, if Mithrandir had stood forth against the Dark Lord of the land, not in secrecy, nor in council, but in the open, between the eye of heaven, one Maia confronting another? Could the Grey Pilgrim or even the White Rider returned from death have withstood Sauron of old, the dread Abhorred? This is no idle fancy, but a question rooted in the bones of Arda, a tale of flame and shadow, of power ancient and perilous, and so shall we seek its answer. Before we pit them against each other, we must understand who and what they truly are. Before any reckoning of time known to elves and men, before the shaping of Middle-earth itself, the Ainur came forth. Of that divine race there were some lesser than the Valar, though mighty still, and among these were Sauron and Gandalf. Sauron, in the first days, was of the Maiar of Ainur, skilled in the arts of making, yet his heart turned toward Malcor, the great rebel, whose black thought seduced him with promises of order through tyranny. In the long wars of the Elder Days and the forging of the Rings of Power in the Second Age, Sauron rose to great height, clad in form terrible and splendid, master of Barad-dur and all who dwelt in fear. Gandalf, known among the Valar as Olórin, was wise and gentle. Dwelling in Lórien, when the Astari were summoned, he was sent unwillingly to Middle-earth, not to rule or to wield open might, but to kindle courage in the hearts of elves and men. Though he came cloaked as an old man, his spirit burned with ancient fire. If one would weigh power by might of hand or terror of will, Sauron would seem the greater, for he wrought the One Ring in secret, pouring into it his very essence, so that it became both crown and soul of his dominion. With the ring he could see and hear across vast leagues, command vast hosts, and enslave the wills of kings. But Mithrandir bore his power in silence. Though bound by decrees of the Valar to take no dominion, he moved with subtle purpose, stirring hearts and awakening hope. And when he fell in Moria, slain by the ancient demon Durin's Bane, he rose anew as Gandalf the White, and with him came a mantle of greater authority, surpassing even Saruman the Wise, whose pride had undone him. Sauron's might was like a storm or earthquake, terrible in its fury yet blind. Gandalf's was a light in the darkness, small yet unquenchable, and in that there is the strength of another kind. Let us then imagine a meeting that never came to pass. The ring is unmade, its fires quenched. Sauron is bereft of his chief weapon, and his power wanes. Yet he is not wholly undone, his spirit remains dark and wrathful. In the ruin of Mordor comes Gandalf, robed in white, his hand holding no sword but filled with purpose. In such a battle of spirits, the world itself might tremble, though Sauron remain a Maia, terrible and foul. Gandalf stands not alone, for he is the emissary of the Valar, and his authority is now unshadowed. Would he slay Sauron as Glorfindel did the Balrog of Gondolin? Or banish him, as Luthien once cast down Sauron of old with song and light? Perhaps, yet it is not through destruction that Mithrandir is strongest, but through the quiet overthrow of despair, and the will to stand where all else has fled. Consider now, is victory the breaking of the enemy, or the endurance of the good? For Sauron, all things were chains and gears, a great wheel of dominion grinding the will of others to dust. Gandalf, by contrast, brought not command, but counsel, not domination, but deliverance. His triumphs were not forged in war alone, but in the hearts of those he kindled. Theoden of Rohan, once broken by shadow, Aragorn, son of Arathorn, who bore the crown, and Frodo of the Shire, who walked through fire. Where Sauron inspired fear, Gandalf evoked hope. And in this truth lies the deeper answer. Even should Sauron's power prevail in battle, it would be hollow, for he cannot master what he does not understand. And Gandalf, in bearing light, bears that which Sauron cannot abide. Who then is victor? Sauron the Deceiver or Gandalf the Grey become white? If one seeks to measure strength by might of arm or force of fear, then Sauron may seem greater. But if one sees through the mists of war and wrath to what endures, then the answer lies elsewhere. For in the end it was not the Dark Lord who shaped the fate of Middle-earth, but the one who stood beside his peoples in their hour of need, even unto death. And thus, though flame may consume and towers fall, the light kindled by Mithrandir shall not be quenched. He was a servant of the secret fire, wielder of the flame of Ainur, and though the shadow may rise again, it shall not pass him.